Welcome back. In 2 short years, over 1 million Iraqis have left to Jordan and Syria. Proud and with deep spiritual and family links to the motherland, Iraqi refugees are tormented between the hope of return and the pain of exile. I visited the little town of Jaramana in Syria and had a chance to observe some of the Iraq's newest refugees. Jaramana, Syria. 2 years ago, it was nothing more than a small, sleepy Syrian hamlet. Today, it is a thriving little town and home for more than 500,000 Iraqi refugees. The sudden influx of Iraqis skyrocketed property prices, and rental income increased threefold. Sunnis, Shiites, Christians and Muslims live in perfect harmony here. Many shop owners refuse to talk to us in fear of reprisal against their families in Iraq. This man blames the Americans and militias for his plight and plans to go back when Iraq returns to normal. Others are waiting to go to Canada and Europe. Looking for solace and salvation, believers have found in prayers peace of mind and relief out of their daily pain. Volunteers and charity organizations are active, providing moral and material support, especially for the poor, children, and the weak. The Church of the Patriarch Abraham here in Jaramana has emerged as a focal point for thousands of Iraqis, a center for spiritual and material support with the help of volunteers. Anxious Iraqis congregate here every Sunday for prayers and news from home. This man arrived last week. He left his family behind when he realized he's a target. Iraqi politicians should think of Iraq first and not their personal interests, he says. He thanked the Syrians for their hospitality and open door policy.
Syria's policy towards the Iraqis is certainly humanitarian. It has nothing to do with political motivation. The Iraqis are our brothers. It's costing us a lot of money. It's putting a lot of pressure on our infrastructure, but we are delighted to do it. They are our brothers, and it is the decent thing and the only thing that we should do.
Iraqis are haunted by the fear of being buried outside their country. Some of Iraq's greatest poets and writers, like Al-Jawahiri and Al-Bayati, are buried in the eternal cemetery here in Damascus, waiting for the final journey home. Meanwhile, millions of Iraqis are writing their wills. When we die, take our bodies home. To highlight the plight of Iraqi refugees, I'm joined from London by Nissan Gorgeous of Iraqi Refugee Welfare Association, and from Washington by Sean Garcia of Refugee International. Welcome to Inside Iraq. Nissan, let me start with you. This daily flight of Iraqis, almost 3,000 every day, how long can it continue?
Mr. Azawi, as long as there's no stability, no security, and the kidnapping and the bombings in Iraq, I'm afraid this situation will continue. You will see more and more Iraqis leaving their country because they don't feel safe. They're leaving everything behind and fleeing to Syria or Jordan. You know how much life is precious to everybody, so they're trying to save their lives. And nobody at the moment, to be quite honest, nobody at the moment can stop them, because they feel that any minute they can be killed, they can be kidnapped. So they're trying to save their lives. And as I mentioned, as long as all this violence and lack of security in Iraq continues, the fleeing of the Iraqis will continue, I'm afraid. And it seems that nobody is helping these people, you know,
one of the
rehouse
organizations that is helping these people is Refugee International, based in Washington, D.C. Sean, what kind of support are you providing for Iraqi refugees?
We mainly work on an advocacy side. So what we have done is visited the Middle East. We were in Jordan and Syria last month, and we're bringing back the concerns of Iraqis to Washington and to Europe. We've been working actively in the past month with the U.S. Congress, with the United Nations, and with European governments to try and ensure that more resources are given to this crisis, which has gone unnoticed until this time.
Nissan, in the 90s, millions of Iraqis also left following the Gulf War. Most of them ended up in Europe, Canada, and the United States. The new refugees are not making it to Europe, are they?
Unfortunately not. No, because nobody is granting them the refugee status anywhere. And some people that I have met in the Iraqi Welfare Association, they have arrived in this country somehow, and they're applying for the status in this country, but unfortunately they are refused. Despite the situation in Iraq, I don't know, they feel they will not be safe if they were to be returned to Iraq. Despite that, they are refused, unfortunately, in this country, and we don't know the reason. For some very, very simple reasons, they are refused in this country, and they cannot stay in this country, unfortunately. And we are trying our best to help them, but we only have limited sources. We are always in contact with the Home Office and liaise with them, have meetings with them to explain the plight of these people.
Yes.
But it seems that, you know, they are not interested.
Sean, this advocacy you are trying to, through which to provide Iraqi with support, and you mentioned Jordan and Syria. These two countries also need help, don't they?
They need a tremendous amount of help. They've been very generous towards Iraqi refugees since the war began. But unfortunately, there is almost no international presence in either Jordan or Syria, and there's very little support to either government. There are vast needs for Iraqi refugees in both countries. Housing is very, very expensive. Iraqis are not allowed to work. We are seeing that they are now having to pay for many education and medical expenses as well. Some families are having difficulty providing food for their families. Without support from the international community, the situation of Iraqis cannot be expected to be taken care of only by the governments of Jordan and Syria. There's simply too many people.
Nissan, the sectarian killings in Iraq has generated a new way of driving people out. People are being asked to leave by phone, by SMSs, by a simple letter. Do you think most of them they will go back to Iraq?
Well, I doubt it, to be quite honest, because if they have been told to leave their house, otherwise they will be killed, you don't expect them to go back, because I am sure they will face that threat, because if they're told that you have to leave, you have to leave. And if they return, unfortunately, and I can rest assure you, they will be killed. And nobody wants, you know, to go back and face those people who threaten through SMS or by text messages or by mobile phones, and I doubt that anybody will go back. So I urge, you know, the international government, you know, to help these people.
Sean, Iraq is teetering on the brink of civil war and perhaps becoming a failed state. Is there any civil society organization left in Iraq through which you could work inside Iraq or outside Iraq as cooperation?
We found very, very limited access inside of Iraq, and we plan to go there in February to examine the situation further. But what we really are seeing is, as has been mentioned earlier in the show, a massive outflight of the intellectual capital of Iraq. Its doctors and lawyers and teachers and architects are fleeing the country, and at some point, most of the resources tied up in its human capital will be found outside of the country, not inside Iraq. So that does make it very difficult to find people with which you can work inside Iraq to stabilize the situation.
Nissan, through your organizations and similar organization based in Europe, what are you trying to do for the new Iraqi refugees?
To be honest, as I was saying before, I get people like doctors, teachers, engineers. They all come to our organization, the Iraqi Welfare Organization. We try our best to help them. We have professional solicitors that we send them to, and we advise them like type of question they will be asked, and then we apply for them to be housed. And thankfully, NAS organization, you know, try their best to find places, houses for these people, and it takes a bit of a while until they have been told. They are told like whether they are accepted in UK or not. But most of the cases, I'm afraid, you know, are refused. But recently, I've had few cases that they were successful. And
thank you, Nissan Gorges from London, Sean Garcia
Pleasure.
from Washington D.C. Thank you, gentlemen, for being inside Iraq. To find more information about the program and to send us your comments, please go to aljazeera.net/English. That's all the time we have for this week. Join me next week when we have another look inside Iraq. Goodbye.